She swapped overconsumption for minimalism and found financial freedom. If you're trying to build an online income in the most frugal, low-risk way possible, you're going to love what I'm about to show you. Because in 2025, people are quietly using Pinterest to create a consistent income stream without ads, without big capital, and without complicated skills. And the crazy part? Almost no one is talking about it. In the years leading up to the COVID-19 pandemic, life across much of the Western world shared a common rhythm: work hard, spend hard, repeat. Consumption wasn't just normal, it was encouraged. Shopping hauls were glorified online, seasonal wardrobe refreshes were a sign of keeping up, and the idea of constantly upgrading your lifestyle was woven into the fabric of modern adulthood. But somewhere between lockdowns, financial anxieties, and global uncertainty, something changed. Millions of people, especially millennials and Gen Z, began to question the relationship between money, happiness, and identity. The pause forced by the pandemic acted like a mirror, reflecting uncomfortable truths about spending habits, emotional purchases, and the pressure to consume endlessly. For some, the shift was temporary. For others, like Rebecca Goodwill, it was life-altering. Rebecca, a 35-year-old personal finance writer from Norfolk, England, didn't simply cut back. She redefined her whole approach to living, moving from overconsumption and emotional spending to deliberate minimalism and disciplined investing. Her story is not just about saving more money. It's about reclaiming control, rebuilding identity, and discovering that financial freedom is not found in having more, but in needing less. This is her journey, and the wider cultural movement she's now part of. Rebecca, before minimalism, a life of spending, style, and stress. 1. The fashion dream that became a financial drain. Long before minimalism entered her life, Rebecca's identity was shaped by one thing: fashion. As a fashion communications student in her early 20s, she lived in an environment where aesthetics mattered. Trends rotated at lightning speed, and owning the right pieces felt like an unspoken requirement. Each season brought new styles, fresh colors, updated silhouettes, and with them, an internal expectation to buy. It was instinctual, she recalls. Every season meant a whole new wardrobe. It wasn't even something I questioned. It was just what everyone around me was doing. When she transitioned into a 9-to-5 office job, the habit followed her. She had a paycheck now, and the freedom to spend it. Zara trips became a weekly ritual. ASOS carts were always full. Packages arrived at her flat almost daily. On the outside, she looked put together. New coats, perfectly curated work outfits, statement shoes. The Instagram-worthy lifestyle that so many young professionals quietly aspired to. On the inside, she felt overwhelmed, drained, and oddly empty. It was exhausting, she says. There was always a new arrival, always a new trend. I never felt satisfied. There was just this constant pressure to keep up. 2. Emotional spending and life's turning points. Looking back, Rebecca recognizes that her biggest spending sprees weren't random, they were emotional. Breakups, job stress, family tensions, boredom, loneliness. All of it manifested as purchases. When something big happened in my life, I'd spend, she explains. It was a coping mechanism, a distraction, a way to feel control in moments I felt powerless. Many young people can relate. Studies show that 72% of millennials use emotional spending to deal with stress. For women especially, buying something small and pretty often acts like a temporary mood lift, but temporary relief can quickly become an expensive habit. Rebecca's wardrobe overflowed, her home filled with deco items that added little meaning. Subscriptions piled up, and yet she didn't feel any richer, happier, or more fulfilled. In fact, she felt stuck. That's the irony of overconsumption. It promises happiness, but often delivers anxiety. 3. The pandemic hits and suddenly, everything stops. Then came 2020, lockdown, isolation, fear. Unemployment spikes, economic uncertainty, empty streets, and crowded hospitals. Like millions of others, Rebecca found herself stuck inside, scrolling through social media, watching the world unravel. Shops closed, social events disappeared. Her usual spending routines were disrupted overnight. With nowhere to go and fewer excuses to buy, something unexpected happened. She slowed down. She had time to think, time to reflect, time to ask hard questions most people avoid. Why do I buy so much? What am I trying to fill? And what would happen if I stopped? Those questions changed everything. Choosing less, saving more. 4. The first step toward minimalism. Minimalism wasn't a trend to Rebecca. It was a survival strategy. Lockdown forced her to see the excess around her. Clothes she hadn't worn in years. Decor items that served no purpose. Subscriptions she barely used. Gadgets that brought momentary excitement and long-term clutter. She began clearing things out, first out of boredom, then out of liberation. It felt like I could breathe again, she says. My home looked clearer, but more importantly, my mind did too. She started learning about minimalism through books, YouTube channels, and blogs. The common thread she noticed? People who needed less tended to have more. More peace, more time, more money. 5. Building new habits. No spend months and investing discipline. In 2021, Rebecca made a decision that would reshape her finances. I'm going to save and invest seriously. She set a bold goal. Save and invest £2,000 per month. Not once. Not occasionally. Every month. But it wasn't impossible either. She canceled TV subscriptions, stopped shopping for seasonal wardrobes, avoided impulse purchases, and embraced repeat outfit living. My life looks a lot more basic now, she says proudly, and I'm not afraid of that anymore. More importantly, she committed to investing consistently, not sporadically. She learned lessons from wealthy investors: diversify, automate contributions, and think long-term. But she also learned a humbling truth. If you start with very little and spread it everywhere, nothing grows, she explains. So she focused. She built a strategy. She remained patient. The results? As of today, her investments sit at an estimated £500,000. Minimalism didn't just declutter her home. It transformed her financial trajectory. 6. Gen Z and millennials rejecting endless consumption. Rebecca's story mirrors a broader generational shift. Recent studies, including one from PwC, show that over 51% of Gen Z are intentionally cutting back on spending. They're reducing takeaways, skipping dinners out, delaying purchases, and choosing meaning over materialism. What's driving this? A mix of cost of living pressures, climate awareness, pandemic lifestyle changes, social media burnout, debt fatigue, desire for financial independence, emotional exhaustion from consumerism. Young people simply don't want to repeat the work, spend, repeat cycle of previous generations. They want freedom, stability, and purpose. Things money can buy, but only when used wisely. 7. Money coaches agree. Saving alone isn't enough. Money coach Natalie Scott sees underconsumption as a good start, but not a complete solution. Consuming less builds discipline, she says, but long-term, the real strategy is increasing your earning power. This is where many people go wrong. They cut back massively, feel deprived, and eventually revert to old habits. Natalie argues for a balanced approach. Cut spending in the short term, increase income in the long term. Build habits that last a lifetime. Upskilling, seeking higher-paying jobs, learning new tools. These are the skills that truly fight inflation. Saving money helps. Earning more money transforms. 8. Why minimalism works. The science of less. Psychologists have long studied the relationship between clutter, consumption, and mental health. The findings are consistent. More stuff equals more stress. More choices equals more decision fatigue. More spending equals more guilt. More noise equals less peace. Minimalism reduces cognitive load. It reduces financial anxiety. It reduces emotional impulse. When your environment is simpler, your thinking becomes clearer, which often leads to better financial decisions. 9. Emotional spending, understanding the root cause. Rebecca's old habits weren't laziness or irresponsibility. They were emotional responses. Therapists note that emotional spending is often linked to stress, loneliness, instability, lack of control, boredom, low self-worth, unresolved trauma. By simplifying her life, Rebecca wasn't just cutting costs. She was healing emotional triggers. Minimalism wasn't a trend, it was therapy. 10. The numbers speak for themselves. Since adopting minimalism, she saves £2,000 monthly. She invests consistently. She has built a £500,000 portfolio. She lives with less stress. She feels more confident with money. She consumes intentionally, not impulsively. She has a lifestyle that aligns with her values. Her life may look simpler on the outside, but it's richer on the inside. 11. The bigger lesson she learned. Minimalism isn't deprivation, Rebecca says. It's choosing what matters most, and what matters most isn't. The newest dress, the trendiest decor, the endless subscriptions, the curated lifestyle. What matters is freedom, autonomy, options, peace, stability. She traded clutter for clarity and spending for security. 1. Make short-term sacrifices. It's okay to have a season of quiet living, she says. Short-term discipline creates long-term wealth. 2. Keep one treat. Total deprivation fails every time. That weekly coffee or small joy keeps you grounded. 3. Prioritize career growth. Your best protection against rising costs isn't budgeting. It's increasing your earning power. Rebecca's transformation is one small part of a massive global trend. Minimalism is no longer about stark white walls or capsule wardrobes. It's about financial stability, sustainable living, rejecting consumer pressure, emotional well-being, redefining success. Young people aren't just buying less, they're choosing less. Less clutter, less noise, less comparison, less debt, less pressure, in exchange for more. Time, savings, peace, control, purpose, freedom. The world is shifting, and Rebecca is part of that shift. Rebecca Goodwill didn't become wealthy because she earned millions. She became wealthy because she changed her relationship with money. She realized that the path to financial freedom isn't paved with more things, but with more intention. Her story is proof that you don't need a higher salary to feel rich. You don't need a bigger house to feel successful. You don't need endless purchases to feel fulfilled. Sometimes, the richest thing you can do is simply need less.